There are moments in a man's life that are louder than any battle cry. Though no sword is lifted, no blood spilled, no voice raised. They are quiet, almost invisible from the outside. A man sits in a room, a cafe, a car parked outside her apartment. He looks at his own reflection in the window and knows that the performance is over. Not because he hates her, not because he has given up on love, but because something deeper has spoken, and this voice does not negotiate. He rises, he turns, he walks. That movement is stronger than conquest, sharper than revenge, more transformative than a kiss. Nietzsche would say, this is the first spark of the Übermensch, the man who creates his own law, who refuses to live borrowed meanings, who would rather carry solitude than inhabit a lie. Think of what this act represents. Walking away is not rejection of women. It is rejection of chains disguised as affection, of cages disguised as warmth, of contracts written in invisible ink that demand the surrender of your essence in exchange for temporary approval. When a man refuses that trade, he is not running from intimacy, he is running toward freedom. Nietzsche's will to power is not about dominating others. It is about ruling over the impulses that would enslave you. To walk away is to dethrone fear. Fear of being alone, fear of being judged, fear of being misunderstood. That dethroning is the birth of sovereignty. Society whispers endlessly into the ear of the man. Stay, compromise, bend, prove your worth, endure chaos for the sake of loyalty. And so men bleed years into situations that strangle their spirit, convinced that endurance is a crown of virtue. But endurance without alignment is not loyalty. It is slow suicide. Nietzsche breaks the illusion. What is strong is not to remain chained to weakness, but to step into the wilderness of uncertainty and build new ground beneath your feet. The man who dares to leave is the man who dares to live. And here is the paradox. The man who can walk away with calm conviction is the only man who can stay with pure love, because his presence is not glued by fear, nor stitched by dependency. It is chosen again and again each day with clarity. The relationship that survives the possibility of exit becomes the relationship worthy of devotion. But the man who cannot leave, the man who clings, who begs, who pleads to be accepted, brings into every embrace the hidden weight of resentment. He stays not because he wants to, but because he cannot bear the silence of absence. That is not love. It is captivity, and captivity is corrosion. Nietzsche spoke of the eternal recurrence, the challenge to live each moment as though you were condemned to repeat it for all eternity. Now imagine applying that law to your relationship. Could you relive this dynamic, this rhythm, this tension, over and over forever? Would you sign your soul to that contract? If your body hesitates, if your heart contracts, if your mind drifts toward despair, then you already know the truth. To continue is to betray yourself. To walk is to save yourself. And saving yourself is not selfishness. It is service to the higher calling of your life, the mission that requires you whole, not fragmented. When a man walks away, he says to the world, "My energy is not a charity for the ungrateful. My peace is not a playground for the unstable. My future is not collateral for temporary pleasures." This declaration requires no speech. The act itself is speech. The way he carries himself afterward, focused, composed, unmoved by drama, becomes a sermon louder than words. Those who witness it may call him cold. In truth, he is warm for the first time, because he refuses to divide himself across false loyalties. Nietzsche would name this as honesty, the raw courage to live without the narcotic of illusion. And do not mistake this for bitterness. A man who walks away does not despise women. He honors them enough to refuse counterfeit connection. He honors himself enough to say no where his values are mocked. He honors love enough to preserve it for a context where it can breathe without poison. This is not cruelty, it is clarity. And clarity, once practiced, becomes contagious. Other men see it and begin to ask, what am I tolerating? What performance am I trapped inside? What false crown have I nailed to my own head? This is why walking away carries more weight than conquest. Anyone can seduce. Anyone can chase. Anyone can cling. But not every man can stand alone and say, I refuse to betray myself. That refusal is the seed of a kingdom. Alone, he sits with his craft, his discipline, his silence, and there he begins to build. The mission grows roots. The friendships that remain become steel. The body recovers strength. The mind recovers clarity. The soul remembers its song. And when love appears again, real love, tested love, he meets it as a man, not as a beggar. In that moment, the act of walking away is revealed for what it truly was. Not the end of a story, but the start of authorship. It is not retreat, but foundation. It is not weakness, but the strongest act of all. Because strength is not measured by how much weight you can carry from others. Strength is measured by how much truth you can carry in yourself. And nothing weighs more than truth. Nietzsche knew this, and he left the challenge in your hands. Will you continue living someone else's script? Or will you walk out of the theater and begin writing your own? The audience may boo, the critics may mock, but the man who leaves the stage with dignity begins at last to live. The mythology of manhood has always been filled with false virtues. We are told endurance is always noble, that patience will transform chaos into devotion, that intensity is the same as intimacy. Yet what man has not learned the hard way that these myths bleed him dry? The hours spent trying to prove himself to someone who never intended to recognize his worth. The years invested into fixing what was never broken in him, but what was always broken in her. The heavy silence of nights where he lies awake, rehearsing words he knows he will never say out loud, because to speak them would be to invite war. These myths do not make men strong. They domesticate them, hollow them, bend them into spectators of their own decline. Walking away cuts these myths to pieces. It says, strength is not the ability to tolerate disrespect. Strength is the refusal to be bribed by moments of passion into long years of despair. Nietzsche's hammer strikes precisely here. He called for the re-evaluation of all values, and nowhere is that re-evaluation more necessary than in the intimate realm. For too long, men have mistaken compliance for virtue, silence for maturity, endurance for loyalty. But real loyalty is to your own becoming. Real maturity is to know when the price of staying is your soul. Real virtue is to leave before bitterness corrupts the heart that once loved with purity. Nietzsche would not tell you to hate, but to transmute, to take the pain of departure and forge it into clarity, to take the silence of solitude and forge it into strength, to take the wound of rejection and forge it into will. Walking away does not only free you, it frees her too. Because every day you stay in dishonesty, she lives with a counterfeit version of you. The laughter is forced, the words are measured, the touches are calculated. You both play roles in a theater of fear. The moment you walk, the play ends, and both actors return to themselves. She may rage, she may weep, she may curse your name, but secretly in the quiet hours, she will feel it too. The strange relief of truth at last. And whether she admits it or not, you will have given her the gift of reality. And reality is the only soil where real love can someday grow. But do not romanticize the exit. It is not soft. It is not painless. Walking away feels like tearing the flesh from your own chest. The body trembles. The mind screams. The heart claws for any excuse to turn back. This is why it is the strongest act. To lift a sword is easy when adrenaline surges. To shout in anger is easy when pride is wounded. But to leave quietly, to refuse to beg, to choose solitude over false connection, that is agony transformed into steel. Nietzsche's will to power lives here, not in the domination of others, but in the domination of the weakness that wants to crawl back into chains. And here is where Jung deepens the lesson. Men often chase women who embody their own disowned qualities. She is soft because he has denied his tenderness. She is wild because he has denied his instincts. She is chaotic because he has denied his emotions. He clings to her not out of love, but out of hunger for the pieces of himself he refuses to cultivate. Walking away is also integration. It forces the man to meet the anima within, to learn tenderness in himself, to hear intuition in his own chest, to face his shadow without outsourcing it to her storm. Only then can he stand as a whole man, choosing love not to complete him, but to complement him. Schopenhauer, ever the pessimist, called romance a trick of life to keep reproducing itself. He saw the entire theater of attraction as a biological scam. Nietzsche rejected this despair, but he did not deny the power of instincts. He urged us to look at them with open eyes, not as slaves but as sculptors. The instinct burns, but the will shapes it. The attraction rises, but the standard filters it. Walking away is the sculptor's chisel, shaping raw desire into chosen destiny. It is not the denial of desire, but the command of it. And only men who have walked away know this secret. Desire, once mastered, deepens rather than diminishes. He who is free to leave is the only one free to love without chains. You may think the world will punish you for this strength, that you will be alone forever, judged, whispered about. And for a while, yes, the silence is deep. The bed is cold. The nights are long. Friends may not understand. She may parade her new life to stab your pride. But stay steady, for the man who walks does not walk into emptiness. He walks into himself. And when he arrives there, the ground becomes solid. The air becomes light. The mission comes alive again. The noise of her absence is replaced by the music of his own soul, which had been muted for too long. He does not lose love. He recovers truth. And truth, given time, attracts love worthy of its weight. This is why walking away multiplies your value. Because in a world of men enslaved by fear of solitude, the man who chooses solitude becomes rare. And what is rare is valuable. Women may test, but they also admire. Society may mock, but secretly it respects. Destiny itself bends in favor of the man who refuses to betray his standards. He does not need to prove himself. His very presence proves him. He does not need to chase validation. Respect arrives in silence. He does not need to perform strength. Strength has already been forged in the act of departure. This is how Nietzsche's vision becomes flesh. The man who authors his own values and lives them without apology. Strength, then, is not a posture. It is not flexing in the gym mirror, not speaking louder than the room, not posting endless declarations online. Real strength is invisible until tested, and the ultimate test is not combat, but departure. When the world expects you to crawl back, to beg, to compromise, and you do none of those things, and that is strength. When temptation whispers in the night, when loneliness gnaws at your ribs, when the old messages glow on your phone like an open wound, and still you do not return, that is strength. And every day you endure that silence, something shifts in you. The weight that once felt unbearable becomes a crown. The absence that once felt like death becomes a throne. The man who conquers his own craving becomes untouchable. To cultivate this, you must train like a craftsman. Walking away is not a single heroic scene. It is the result of years of preparation. Start with non-negotiables. Respect that is consistent, not conditional. Reciprocity that is lived, not promised. Truth that is spoken, not hinted. Peace that deepens, not collapses. Whenever these are violated repeatedly, the path is clear. Exit with dignity. This clarity saves both time and soul. Because every month you cling to what poisons you. Your craft suffers, your friendships corrode, your mission weakens. But every time you close the wrong door quickly, you accelerate the arrival of the right doors. The world rearranges itself around your standards. Nietzsche warned us against becoming last men, comfortable, compliant, afraid of risk, living for distraction instead of destiny. Many men become last men in love. They stay because it is easier than solitude. They compromise until their backbone bends. They silence themselves until their voice fades. They choose comfort over growth, drama over clarity, chaos over peace. To walk away is to rebel against this fate. It is to choose to live dangerously in the Nietzschean sense. Not recklessly, but courageously. It is dangerous to be alone with yourself. It is dangerous to reject what everyone else accepts. It is dangerous to write your own law. But only in danger does life taste real. And only in danger does a man find himself. Think of the practice of silence. A weak man fills silence with noise, texting, scrolling, begging, rationalizing. A strong man lets silence expand. In the silence, the truth of the relationship rises like smoke. Is this woman multiplying my peace, or is she consuming it? Is this rhythm sharpening my mission or dulling it? Is this connection honoring my essence, or trading it for cheap affection? The silence answers honestly, if you dare to listen. And when the answer is clear, action follows. You do not argue. You do not plead. You do not hold meetings with your soul to ask permission. You walk, and in that walk, you turn silence into song. It is worth repeating. Walking away is not punishment. It is liberation. You liberate yourself from falsehood, and you liberate her from being chained to a man who is no longer whole. You both return to yourselves. though one may curse the other in the process. But time always reveals what pride hides. Years later, the truth is undeniable. The man who left with dignity left a legacy of strength. His name carries weight, even in the mouths of those who mocked him. His absence teaches more than his presence ever could. And deep down, everyone knows it is rare, almost sacred, to see a man refuse to betray himself for temporary comfort. There is another dimension here. Your future. When you walk away, you are not only protecting your present self, you are protecting the man you will become and even the lives that may depend on him. Imagine children born into a home poisoned by resentment. Imagine a mission abandoned because chaos drained the builder's will. Imagine years lost to a relationship that required your silence as its price. Walking away today prevents that ruin tomorrow. It is not selfish, it is generational responsibility. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence again challenges us. Would you want this story to echo forever into your lineage? If not, then closing the door is an act of love, not just for yourself, but for those yet to come. And still, the test never ends. Even after you walk, the world will tempt you back. Memories will replay. Old messages will appear. Friends will tell you to soften, to give it another chance. Loneliness will whisper that anything is better than silence. But every time you resist, you forge another layer of steel around your core. Eventually, you reach a point where the pull no longer moves you. You can look at her photo, her words, her presence, and feel gratitude without hunger. That is freedom. That is when you know the act of walking away has completed its work in you. You are no longer a prisoner of what was. You are a custodian of what will be. And what will be is extraordinary. For when a man truly embodies this, women see it. They may test, but they respect. They may doubt, but they admire. They know instinctively, this man does not stay because he must. He stays because he chooses. And a chosen presence is the only kind worth having. A man who can leave at any moment but remains in devotion. That is a man whose love carries the weight of eternity. That is a man whose yes means everything, because his no was always ready. This is how walking away transforms not only your soul, but the very fabric of your relationships. It makes every connection truer, deeper, cleaner, and in that truth, love breathes. To make walking away more than a single moment, it must become a discipline. Think of it as building your inner constitution, laws written not in paper, but in your bones. Each law is a vow to yourself. I honor my craft before I honor distraction. I keep my word rare and ruthless. I leave when respect is broken. I do not argue with chaos. I reward peace with presence. These laws do not change with moods, hormones, or temptations. They remain like granite, and your life shapes itself around them. Nietzsche spoke of the creator of values, the man who becomes his own legislator. Walking away is not just leaving one woman. It is the practice of living by law rather than by impulse. The practice begins small. You notice how you spend your mornings. Do you wake with purpose or do you wake with chaos? You notice how you treat your body. Do you feed it fuel or do you drug it into numbness? You notice how you handle your time. Do you build or do you scroll? Every act of attention is a vote for who you are becoming. And when a woman enters your life, she enters into this constitution. If she violates its laws, she must leave, or you must walk. No exceptions. The strength to walk in the big moments comes from practicing discipline in the small ones. If you betray yourself in diet, in schedule, in craft, how will you honor yourself in love? Integrity is indivisible. Courtship then becomes clarity. You do not perform. You do not inflate. You do not hide your mission to appear softer. You stand as you are, disciplined, direct, deliberate. She sees the architecture of your life and either admires it or collides with it. Both outcomes are good. Admiration means she is aligned. Collision means she is not. In both cases, you win because truth arrived early. Only the man who fears solitude delays truth. But the man who has made solitude his ally welcomes truth like oxygen. And so he avoids the slow bleed of years wasted on someone who was never meant to walk beside him. This is the art of masculine clarity. And it goes further. Walking away strengthens not only romance but every arena of your existence. In business, you stop tolerating partners who drain more than they contribute. In friendship, you stop hosting people who celebrate your weakness but ignore your strength. In family, You set boundaries with those who would reduce you to the role they need, rather than the man you are becoming. In your own mind, you stop negotiating with the voices that mock your potential. Walking away becomes a universal language, spoken wherever falsehood tries to claim territory. And the more you speak it, the more fluent you become. Eventually, you cannot even imagine living without it. The act of leaving misalignment becomes as natural as breathing. Yet let us be honest, it will cost you. Nietzsche warned that the path of the creator is lonely, mocked, misunderstood. The herd despises those who walk away because it exposes their own cowardice. They will call you arrogant, cold, heartless, selfish. They will project their own fears onto you. Do not flinch. Their words are chains rattling in the dark, trying to pull you back into the cage. But the man who has heard the call of freedom cannot return. He knows that every insult hurled at him is actually confession. I could not do what you did. Let them confess. You continue walking. Think of yourself as an architect. The cathedral you are building cannot be raised on rotten stone. Every compromise, every tolerance of disrespect, every moment you stay where you should have left becomes a crack in the foundation. And cathedrals do not collapse overnight. They collapse decades later, under the weight of neglect. But the architect who is ruthless with his materials, who rejects even the smallest fracture, builds a structure that outlasts centuries. Walking away is quality control for the soul. It is refusing to build a life with materials unworthy of its destiny. And there is beauty in this severity. For once you live like this, love becomes radiant. You no longer fear it, no longer chase it, no longer dilute it. You let it arrive, you let it stay, you let it grow, and all the while, you know you could leave at any time. That freedom gives your presence its weight. She feels it. She knows your love is not hunger. It is choice. It is devotion without desperation. And that is the only love worthy of a man, because desperation corrupts, but choice sanctifies. And the man who can leave freely can finally stay faithfully. This is why walking away must be spoken of not as rejection but as blessing. It blesses your path by clearing it of distraction. It blesses her path by freeing her from counterfeit connection. It blesses the future by laying foundations unbroken. It blesses love itself by preserving its purity. And though the world will not clap for you, though the herd will not celebrate you, you will feel it in your chest. The rare peace of a man who lives without betrayal. That peace is not loud, not dramatic. It is quiet, steady, immovable. It is the peace of a man who knows he has walked through fire and did not flinch. Return to the threshold, that sacred moment when a man knows he must choose. Before him stands not only a woman, but a mirror of his own becoming. She is real, with her beauty, her chaos, her charm, her contradictions. He does not judge her for being who she is. He simply recognizes whether her presence multiplies his destiny or mortgages it. And with calm breath, he decides. He stays if the rhythm sharpens his soul. He walks if the rhythm corrodes it. That decision, repeated across a lifetime, writes the difference between a man who wastes his years in borrowed scripts and a man who authors his own saga. Nietzsche would whisper, "Become who you are," and becoming demands exits. Walking away, then, is not the end of love. It is the purification of love. For only a man who can walk cleanly can ever stay freely. He does not cling. He does not beg. He does not mold himself into someone else's fantasy. He brings his truth, and if it is received with reverence, he builds. If it is mocked, he leaves. And in both outcomes, he wins. Because the true victory is not to secure someone else but to secure yourself. And the man who secures himself stands unshaken before the world. His solitude is not empty. It is alive with mission, with craft, with brotherhood, with the raw fire of self-respect. That fire warms him more than counterfeit affection ever could. This is why the act of departure becomes legendary. Think of the men history remembers. Not the ones who begged, not the ones who lingered, not the ones who wasted their strength trying to change what could not be changed. We remember those who stood firm, who refused chains, who created new worlds. Walking away is your personal revolution. No banners, no armies, no applause. Just the quiet dignity of a man who refuses to exchange his essence for approval. And from that revolution, everything else flows. Work deepens, friendships refine, opportunities multiply. Love, when it returns, meets a man who is whole, not a man who is starving. That difference radiates in every word, every action, every silence. Understand this. The strongest act is not to fight for what diminishes you. The strongest act is to walk away and trust that what aligns will find you. And when it does, it will not demand that you shrink. It will not punish your standards. It will not fear your mission. It will recognize your spine as beauty, your boundaries as respect, your presence as blessing. That kind of love cannot be found by those who cling to what disrespects them. It is only found by men who had the courage to leave the counterfeit behind. And you, hearing these words now, know deep down that you are capable of that courage. Because the very fact that you are still here, still listening, still breathing this message into your chest, means you are already different. You are already awakening to the law that nothing that cost you yourself can stay. Now let us seal this together. I want you to take this truth beyond the screen, to anchor it in your own life with a simple vow. Write these words in the comments so that you join a brotherhood of men declaring their standard. I walk away to protect my power. Let those words be your banner. Every man who reads them will feel less alone. Every man who writes them will feel more alive. And together we create a tribe that honors strength not by conquest but by clarity. This is not just a video. It is a movement of men refusing to betray themselves. Subscribe, because this channel is where you will find the fuel to keep walking the path that most fear. Each message is a reminder that you are not crazy, not cold, not selfish. You are awake. Like this video, not for me, but because the algorithm listens to numbers. And by pressing that button, you send this standard to more men who need it. Every like is a signal fire, every subscription a reinforcement, every comment a testimony. Together we bend the machinery of the digital world toward truth. Together we remind men that strength is not noise, but integrity. And stay close, because what comes next will press even deeper into the marrow of this truth. There is a revelation ahead that will shake you, confront you, and leave you sharper than you have ever been. I will not name it now, because the power of it is in the arrival. But when it lands, you will feel it like a blade carving through illusion. That moment is coming, and you will want to be here when it does. The path of strength is long, but you are not walking it alone. This is only the beginning.